20 years ago, I married Mary, and then 17 years ago, I married Janelle, and then 16 years ago, I married Christine.
Without a doubt, the Browns have become one of the most famous families in the US since Sister Wives premiered on TLC on September 26, 2010. More than 2 million people watched when this polygamous family was first introduced to the public, and good or bad, the interest in them hasn't waned in the years that followed. As the show chronicled their daily lives, one can see how Kody Brown juggles having 4 wives and 18 children in his life. Being part of this family has its perks, as most of them attest to, but like all marriages, theirs were not without problems. With the revelations in its 16th season, its loyal viewers have begun to wonder how long the Browns can keep their family intact. Cody grew up on a ranch in northern Wyoming and was raised in the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints faith. His religion doesn't practice polygamy, but its principle is something he knew he would embrace. When he was 20, his parents converted to the fundamentalist Mormon religion. At 21, Cody started going to this church. As his family expanded, he claimed to love each of his wives wholly, passionately, and eternally. Cody believed he shares a destiny with each one, and they are meant to be together in one family. Loving 4 women at the same time might be hard to understand for those outside their faith, but Cody said he loves his wives for different reasons, but doesn't love one more or less than the others. He found peace in Mary's home, talked business with Janelle, and enjoyed the lightness of being together with Christine. Robin offered him emotional honesty that forces him to deal with things he would normally avoid. He admitted that he's unsure if his wives could fulfill all his needs, and vice versa, but their bond is something he would need for the rest of his life. Cody's first wife, Mary, was born in California. Her family moved to Utah when she was 5, and her parents were devout followers of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. After years of studying the principle of polygamy, Mary's father eventually took 4 wives after her mother, so Mary actually has 27 siblings. Her family was generally a happy one, so she thought she would live the polygamous lifestyle as well. She met Cody through his sister, and they became friends and were inseparable. He said strict abstinence made their relationship more meaningful. They became engaged on Christmas Eve in 1989, shared their first kiss on New Year's Eve, and married on April 21, 1990. She was 19 and he was 22. They settled in Wyoming. Both knew there would be other wives in their family, but they enjoyed a monogamous relationship for 3 years. Janelle, Cody's second wife, grew up in Utah and was raised in the LDS faith. Janelle had no idea that polygamy was real until she met her future husband, Adam, who belonged to a polygamous family. They were married for 6 months, then called it quits as they weren't romantically, emotionally, or spiritually compatible. After the divorce, her in-laws continued to look after her, and she remained close to them, including his sister Mary. Cody enjoyed a platonic relationship with her, but soon realized they were destined to be together. He casually broached the possibility of them being in a relationship, but she rejected it at that time. However, Janelle fell in love with the polygamous lifestyle and said, "I loved the idea of a sisterhood, the notion of companionship, and the possibility of a family that could grow in so many different ways." Cody's father tried to set her up with Cody's brother, but she preferred Cody as he was the kind of father she envisioned for her future kids. She approached him and said, "I think I belong in your family," which Cody was pleased and relieved to hear. If Mary had any misgivings about Janelle, she didn't voice them. It was a short courtship. They dated only once and shared one innocent kiss before they were married in a spiritual ceremony in 1993. Their first year of marriage was a struggle, as Mary and Cody didn't really know how to incorporate Janelle into their lives. She lived with them more as an eternal house guest than a wife. During their 8th year of marriage, and after giving birth to their 5th child, she suffered postpartum depression. When she and Mary had a big fight, she and her kids went to live with her mother for months. She later found a house of her own and built a life for herself. She went back to school and graduated with a degree in accounting. Cody later stayed at her house when it was their time to be together. What she had with Cody before was friendship and an intellectual connection, so this gave them the chance to enjoy their moments alone and to know each other on a more intimate and spiritual level. She later rejoined the family when they moved to Utah. Christine is Cody's 3rd wife, raised in a polygamous family, with her father the head of their church. She was 17 when she realized that she wanted to be part of a plural marriage, but as a 3rd wife. Being a first wife never appealed to her, as she believed it would be too much work and require self-sacrifice. She's independent and liked her freedom too much. Being a second wife was also not an option for her, as she considered it as a wedge that comes between the couple, so it's an uncomfortable position. Christine said that the third wife is in a blessed position as she makes peace between the two wives. As Christine, Cody, and Mary all belonged to the same church, it was inevitable that they would meet during gatherings. He made quite an impression on her, and she started to have a crush on him. He said that there was an undeniable spark between them, but that he didn't want to explore this yet, as Mary made it clear to him that she wasn't preferred for him to court Christine, who at some point became her friend. Cody admitted to being young and superficial back then, so when Christine did something that grossed him out, it cooled the attraction he felt for her. After 3 years of friendship, a short courtship followed, and they were then married in 1994. Cody felt overwhelmed when it dawned on him that he's bringing Christine to a household full of tension. Mary and Janelle didn't get along, and on top of that, Janelle was pregnant with their first child. However, her positivity and kindness brought peace to their situation. She lived with her sister wives for 3 months before opting to live in a different house, as she wanted to deepen her relationship with Cody. Fourth wife Robin lived in southern Utah and also grew up in a polygamous family. Her mother was her father's second wife. Robin married a guy from a prominent family in the community and had 3 children with him, but said that she was misled and mistreated by him, so they separated after 7.5 years and were divorced. There was an instant attraction between her and Cody when they first met. After seeing her only a handful of times, Cody already felt an emotional and spiritual connection with Robin. Mary was drawn to Robin as well, and became interested in having her as a sister wife. After getting consent from all his wives, he invited Robin and her kids to his home to meet the whole family. She immediately fell in love with them, but it took a while longer before she fell in love with him. They were having financial difficulties, so their wedding kept being delayed. So Robin's family was unable to move to Lehi, Utah to be with Cody. It only pushed through in 2010 when the TLC network said they would pay for the wedding. At that time, he was already in discussion with them about doing the reality show. Robin had a difficult time being a fourth wife because her sister wives became jealous of her relationship with Cody. The reality series Sister Wives took a while in the planning. Those in a polygamous marriage avoid going public about their unconventional lifestyle, as most people regard it in a negative light. Being in a reality show means opening oneself to public scrutiny, and Cody knew that he was putting his family at risk when he agreed to do the show. He and his wives could lose their jobs, and his children could be bullied at school. However, he said he was tired of hiding, lying about his life, and living like a second-class citizen. He was proud of having a wonderful family, a perfectly happy family, with beautiful wives and beautiful children. He believed that the world was ready to hear their story. By the time the show started, Cody had 3 wives. He'd been legally married to his first wife, Mary, for 20 years, and they have 1 child named Mariah, aged 14. He'd had a spiritual union with Janelle for 17 years, and they have 6 children, aged 5 to 15, and then with Christine for 16 years. They have 5 kids, aged 6 to 14, with 1 more on the way. They lived in a 3,000 square foot house that was built for a polygamous family, as it had 3 separate apartments. It allowed them to live close to one another, but with each wife having her own space. Janelle lived on the left side while Mary was on the top right and Christine at the bottom right. Their relationships as a family improved significantly, and the sister wives learned to accept each other's differences. Cody was married to all 3 women before the children were born, so they notionally grew up with 3 moms. The news that Cody was courting another woman was met with a bit of apprehension, as it was the first time it happened in 16 years. Although the kids liked Robin, having a new mom and siblings felt weird to them, and most of them said it would take some getting used to. The 3 wives liked Robin as well, but they were all settled in their ways, so adjusting to having her and her kids as part of their family was difficult. Cody divorced Mary in 2014, so he could legally marry Robin and adopt her children. Plural marriage is illegal in 50 states, so when they came out as a polygamous family through the show, the government of Utah launched an investigation. The Browns then moved to Las Vegas, Nevada to escape anti-polygamy laws. They couldn't find a place that would suit them, so each wife has her own house where she and her kids with Cody have the opportunity and space to bond individually with him. However, the houses were close enough so that they could still function as a family. Love should be multiplied, not divided, Cody said, as a way to explain his polygamous lifestyle in simple terms. His wives had been fully committed to the principle of marriage, but the reality of sharing a husband was far from what they envisioned it would be. They thought they knew what they were going into, and even had grand expectations on what it would be like. But once they were living the life, they couldn't handle it. Each one struggled to find a place in the family. Each time a new wife joined the family, there would be jealousy, insecurity, and resentment. It took them years to find a balance and live in relative peace. However, the addition of a fourth wife brought changes none of them wanted or were prepared for. On the latest season of Sister Wives, which aired from 2021 to 2022, it was revealed that the Browns were falling apart, although it was a long time coming. Patience was wearing thin, and giving up has become an option. They have been living in separate homes since they moved to Flagstaff, Arizona in 2018, which caused the family to drift apart. The pandemic made the situation worse, as the safety protocols prevented them from spending much time together. Not all agreed with the rules that Cody set for them to keep everyone safe. With each wife and their respective children doing their own thing, being together even during the holidays wasn't possible. So it didn't seem that they all belonged to one family anymore. They bought a 20-acre property in Coyote Pass where they could live together, but they couldn't seem to agree on anything when they were discussing the plans for it. Christine had reached her limit and didn't want to stay married to Cody. She said that she'd been struggling the whole time they were in Flagstaff, feeling that she didn't matter and that she didn't have his support. She wanted a partnership and a different life than this. Her Instagram post in November 2021 revealed that she'd left Cody after 25 years. She and Cody agreed to co-parent their kids. Their youngest is only 11. He issued a statement on his Instagram. Although we were moving forward on different paths, we will always remain committed parents. Based on her Instagram posts, people could see that she's finally happy and thriving. Mary's relationship with Cody has been in a dark place for quite some time. As a first wife, she has been having issues with her sister wives since the beginning of their plural marriage. Being in a loveless, spiritual union with Cody after their divorce might have played a role in her being involved in a catfishing scandal in 2015. He later made it clear to her that the most they could ever be was friends, distant but amicable. Janelle has been at odds with Cody over many things. As she said, "I get really antsy if I feel like I can't make the choices that control my own life." The most recent disagreement they had was about the rules that she needed to follow in her house during the pandemic so that he could come and be with them. Nothing has been resolved since their adult kid's opinion on the matter differed from their father. Robin's relationship with Cody is the only one that has flourished over the years. Many believe that this is because she's received preferential treatment from Cody. He's primarily staying with her during the pandemic, but contrary to what others might say that this is what she wanted, it's not. This wasn't what she signed up for in a plural marriage, although she did want some independence as well. In a polygamous family, the relationship between the wives is just as important as a relationship between husband and wives. When the sister wives aren't getting along, it affects their marriages as well. For the Brown family to live in harmony, it all boils down to how committed each of them is to the family and in making things work. Clearly, this is far more difficult than any of them had imagined.
Thank you for spending some time with us. Make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another video. We also handpick these videos which we recommend you watch next. You can talk to us on all social medias or ask a question in the comments below. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you back tomorrow.